In the prior video, we concluded our narration of Frank Channing Haddock's The Cultivation of Courage with these words: actual power qualities, freedom, openness, friendliness, appreciation, honesty, honor, fidelity, purity, power, reverence, aspiration, and confidence. If you will cultivate these master qualities of the mental life, you will inevitably come to a degree of healthy mindedness. You will have infallibly discovered the white life. The white life need fear nothing, either in the earth below or in the heavens above. Continuing now. All this, of course, suggests a considerable amount of labor. And precisely such labor indicates a further difficulty in the way of mental health. Thirdly, the difficulty of false ideas of discipline. How to remedy? If the last regimes have a distasteful look to you, the fact shows that discipline is wrongly conceived. When you feel that life is really inspired by such high ideals, the element of discipline almost loses its distinctive character. The effort to do correct or improve your personality because the work is regarded as a mere duty or a necessity is very naturally more or less unpleasant. The attempt to make the most of self for the sake of a larger life in full health and courage, on the other hand, becomes a spontaneous expression of desire by so much as the goal is idealized in thought. A real inspiration calls exuberantly for confident self-discipline. It is a rank error to feel that discipline of self is inconsistent with the highest satisfaction in the work required. Precisely the opposite will appear if you come to hold that my mind to me a kingdom is, such perfect joy therein I find. Mere mental grubbing is not a phase of mental health. A wholesome mind enjoys itself in its most strenuous activity. That the difficulty which now confronts us may disappear, you are invited to observe the following suggestions. 1. You are urged to cultivate the mood of intellectual happiness by repeating again and again the lines just above quoted from the old English poet, Bird. My mind to me a kingdom is. Such perfect joy therein I find. Number 2, you are urged to refuse admittance to all unworthy and depressing thoughts and realities. Why should a human being turn the mind into a charnel house, a graveyard, a prison, or a hell? Number 3, you are urged to banish all intellectual brooding and worry, and every form of pessimism and cynicism. Before my desk hang 2 printed sentiments, one from Robert Louis Stevenson and one from Robert Browning. Stevenson begins a prayer with, "The day returns and brings us the petty round of irritating concerns and duties. Help us to play the man," etc. Browning begins a little poem with, "The years at the spring and days at the morn." Mentions a number of bright things that flash up to his view and closes with the shout, "God's in his heaven, all's right with the world." In the one sentiment, you see the heroic spirit fighting illness of mind. In the other, you see perfect mental health. Number 4, you are invited to apply the following statement to your own life. It has been estimated that every person whose career measures 50 years, say, from the age of 20 to that of 70, has had 4 solid years of time as a treasure to be disposed of for whatever the soul may have chosen to purchase, however busy the life may have been. That amount of time, if properly used, would bring the equivalent of a college education. And this is true, not in the sense that one needs to be a slave to personal improvement, but take it in the most reasonable manner. Number 5, you are invited to maintain in your mental kingdom as large a variety of action as may be consistent with steadfastness and balance. If your mind is not a gadabout, neither is it a mere galley slave. In the average human brain, there are millions of cells which are capable of activity representing thought. And not one of these cells do we ever create by conscious effort. We merely use and develop. Your mental life, then, may be as narrow and monotonous or as broad and varied as you will. Number 6, you are urged to study your own mind for discovery of weaknesses and unhealthy peculiarities. As, for example, scant power of observation, poor memory, imagination, judgment, poor memory, imagination, and judgment, lack of concentration and of analyzing ability, of persistence and force, prejudices, mental squint, abnormal fondness for abnormal things, antipathies, likes, propensities, unwholesome tendencies, short-sightedness, things of for abnormal things, antipathies, likes, propensities, unwholesome tendencies, short-sightedness, lack of dignity, of poise, flippancy, mysticism, undue matter-of-factness, over-criticalness, excessive credulity, etc. Of course, such phases of unhealthy mindedness should be corrected. There is no reason whatever for any discouragement in the effort. Be not faithless, but believing. No weakness is there which you may not improve. No fault that you may not obviate. If only belief and will be held buoyantly to the work of personal improvement. Number 7, you are now invited, on the other hand, to set about discovering your best points and to let yourself out in every line indicated by the revelation. The trouble with most people who, who really ought to address themselves to this enjoyment of securing the best mental tone is just here. They dwell forever on the wrong side of the question. I talked with a man who declared that he had lost opportunities in life because of timidity. I said, you ought to overcome this weakness. Oh yes, he replied, I know. But it's in the blood before me. This man had suggested to himself an impossibility and stood limp before his master, a mere notion. I believe that all slavery to blood and to training is itself mental ill health. You are in the world to be master of these factors. That is exactly the significance of human life. Man develops by so much as he makes his own blood over and better. Number 8, and you are urged to remember that healthy-mindedness is no less than a health of, Number 8, and you are urged to remember that healthy-mindedness, no less than health of body, demands rest and recreation. Unclamp your intellectual and practical machinery and let it run free, and the service it will do you will be twice as good. We have thus seen that some of the difficulties confronting mind health are false ideas of environment, of the success spirit, and of self-discipline, and that our corrections are right beliefs, self-inspiration, and confident self-discipline. In order now to obviate a tendency which someone calls uncritical optimism, a vague assumption of good whether or no, we must remember that a growing mind requires a very healthy dealing with reality. The trouble here presented may be called, fourthly, the difficulty of unwholesome faith. How to obviate. It begins with, there was a vast amount of insanity not under asylum treatment. A good deal of abnormal acceptance of faith philosophy prevalent, which is due to the absence of vigorous regard for downright reality. That'll be for the next video.